Hi, my name is Tom Carr, and I'm the producer of Deranged. I'm very glad to say that this film has taken on cult classic status over the years, and many people are very interested about the behind-the-scenes footage that I had forgotten about. This was a number of years ago, and I had put this footage away and forgot all about the 16mm behind-the-scenes footage. So my good friend Michael Moore told me to look for it and find it so we could show it to you, and that's what we're going to do right now.
Hi, whoever's listening to this. This is going to be a spontaneous watching and talking session of your 16mm footage of Deranged. Okay, that's the first image. This is Jerry Bergson. By the way, did you know Jerry Bergson does an excellent Betty Davis impression? He taught it to me, and we would go around and do it together in Toronto on our nights off. What are we doing here? I think, well, obviously we're preparing the bodies, Ed Gein's victims that sit around the table. We went to a toy store and bought these visible head model kits and took the skulls out, and sometimes we were able to find skull kits. And we bought dowel rods and chicken wire, and that's what these things are made out of. This is dowel rods, chicken wire, latex. In this case, this is an actual cast of the woman who played his mother. And then this is, I think, Jeff Gillam's wife here that we had to age. We had to cast the woman who played Ed's mother and it's a good thing we did because she wasn't available for the funeral scene, where all we did was place her life cast, her head, in the coffin. This must be the mask that Ed wore. We pieced it together from the latex duplicates of. Oh, this I don't remember that one. That's pretty eerie. But we pieced it together from the latex pieces made from casts of the actors in the film. Here, Ed is trying on his wig, and looks like the aged face of the woman he digs up that Jeff Gillam's wife played. You have to forgive me if I don't remember all these names. It's been quite a while here. But this is Roberts Blossoms wearing pieces of bodies. Roberts Blossoms was a great guy. Is a great guy. He's still around, still active. He was the colonel in Slaughterhouse-5. He was in Home Alone. He was Macaulay Culkin's next-door neighbor's friend. I think it was Home Alone, too. Now, this woman here, I don't remember her name right here. And there's Tom Carr. I don't remember her name, but in my young pubescent state, I was really attracted to that woman. I really wanted her bad. I wonder where she is today. Here's one of the bodies, fully done with latex and latex, cotton, and dowel rods and chicken wire. Now, I believe that here's the woman playing, yes, this is Miss Ma Cobb. Ma Cobb, a brilliant play on the word macabre. And, you know, Ed Gein was, his name was changed to Ezra Cobb in this film, and everyone who talks to me tells me that this is the truest account of the Ed Gein story they've ever seen. Well, we all know that. Because Psycho was another story, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Michael McGowan behind the camera. I've seen his name on some big movies. I watch all the credits, all the movies that I see, and, you know, keep track of my friends, and I see Mike's name a lot of places, big films. Don't know who that is. There's Roberts Blossom again. And, oh, that's Sandy. Sandy, an unpronounceable last name, as I remember. Again, in my young pubescent state, I was very attracted to her, but she was the girlfriend of Mike McGowan Sr. Great cameraman, great personality, great friend. Liked to be around him a lot. He was very generous with his time, with his stories. And what do we have here? Here's, I don't know what that is. Ma Cobb, Roberts Blossom, Jeff Gillam giving some directions here, I can see. Oh, I see. This is a poor woman. That was like a mixture of pea soup and fake blood, as you can see. That might be my arm in there cleaning her up. But I definitely was standing behind the bed for this scene where, shooting at her left side, we were trying to make her nose bleed after he was trying to stuff all this pea soup in her mouth. And the way to do that, the way we came up with to do that was to fasten that tubing along the right side of her nose. And the camera was shooting at the left side of her face. It was a profile shot, and we just shot the blood out of that tube, and it mixed with the pea soup, and it was pretty grisly. And as I remember, this was a pretty elderly lady, and she was a real trooper.
Hurts.
Eat. You'll be all right. Honest. Oh, you won't die. Honest. Please, Mama. Please, Mama, don't leave me. Mama, don't bleed. Don't bleed. No. Mama.
Hi there. I'm Jeff Gillen. This is June 23rd. We're recording this at Great Southern Studios in Miami. It's been a little over 22 years since we made this film, Deranged. I have somewhat difficulty remembering what I had for dinner on Monday night, but we're going to try and go through and give you some recollections of this film, and we'll play the tape, and I'll try and my best to narrate over it and tell you what I can see. Tape rolling.
Looks like Ezra Roberts Blossom is studying his lines. Jeff Gillen giving direction. Now, Jeff, I remember, was quite a funny guy. I liked being around him. He had quite the personality, quite the sense of humor. Okay, this looks like we're outside. Obviously, this is going to be the graveyard scene where he digs up so-and-so. You guys are going to have to fill in the blanks, fill in the names. But he's about to dig up somebody who I think is played by Jeff Gillen's wife. Please, Jeff, forgive me, I don't remember her name. Wearing one of our latex age makeups. As I remember, it was pretty cold this night. Oh, the one thing about Canada, Toronto, that I remember is that instead of bicycles on their front lawns, they all had snowmobiles. And one day we were driving. I forget. We might have been coming back from this particular scene here. There goes Roberts Blossoms down the ladder with his red lumberjack jacket on and covered by looks like a green thermal jacket. But I might have been coming back from this scene. We weren't dressed for the weather. I know that. The car broke down. And I remember we had to walk back to the Ukrainian film studio where we were shooting. It was me, Jerry, Alan Ormsby, and I forget who else was with us. Oh, there's me right there, glasses, one of the only shots, I think, in this documentary, standing on the mound of dirt next to the grave. You know, it sounds like stream of consciousness because I'm going from one thing to the other, but don't forget, I'm watching a documentary that is going from one thing to another, okay? So where was I? Oh, we're walking back. We had to walk back to this Ukrainian film studio, and we were just freezing our butts off. Okay, this graveyard scene, he is not digging up. Oh, okay. He's not digging up his, some friend of his mother's. He's actually digging up his mother. And that was a dummy that we made of the actor. Now we're back in the bedroom. There's Jeff Gillen. There's what's left of Ma Cobb. And Jeff and Sandy are doing something about the placement of her hands. This is a close-up of her in the costume. Now we're panning down. And it's pretty dark. I can't really see what's going on here. It looks like something metallic. Silver in her hand. I remember that here's a close-up. We dug a chunk out of her nose and her forehead. I don't know who that woman was. There was a flash of a woman sitting in a chair. I don't know who she was. Then there was Alan Ormsby in his cap. And now we have Ma Cobb sitting at the table. There's some cups. Jeff Gillen is playing with the fake head. And there's a book of anatomy, probably some book that we got and studied so we could use it to make bodies. Can't see what's going on here. There's a fake head on the table, and it looks like the fake head of Jeff Gillam's wife, Jerry Bergson, is decorating her neck probably with blood or some kind of juice. Now wait, see, it fooled me. It fooled me. That was not her fake head. That was Jeff Gillam's wife in makeup with an appliance on her neck to look like it was a severed head. And it fooled me because the eyes just popped open. See that? We're so good, we fooled ourselves. Okay, there she is. Her head next to the fake head. Now, there is quite a difference here. The fake head is a little thinner, but I have a photograph of that someplace. I think I sent it to Fango because they're doing a piece on Fangoria magazine, because they're doing a piece on Deranged. Okay, Robert's Blossom is sitting here, and I'm not going to be fooled by that head again. That is really Jeff Gillam's wife with that makeup on, and someone's having fun. Robert's Blossom seems to be laughing his head off. Alan Ormsby. Alan, again, I loved Alan's personality and his sense of humor. I thought he had a very quick wit, and I think he deserves the celebrity that he has today. And there's Jerry Bergson and Robert's Blossom. The timing of this thing should be perfect because I've been talking right along with every frame that I've been seeing in here, right from the very first frame, which was a close-up of Jerry Bergson. And I haven't turned off the mic yet. Okay, Robert's Blossom is... Oh, there he goes. He's going to saw the top of her head off. And that better be, and it must be, the fake head. Okay, this is one of the scenes that was excised from the original film.
Affects things. I noticed in viewing this tape earlier that my wife Arlene is involved in a lot of it. She played the part of, I forgot, Mrs. somewhat, the school teacher. There she is right now in the film, actually. And she was very good about this whole process. It was required that she lay in the grave one night, and up in Toronto, Canada, where we were filming this, it was extremely cold. This particular is the death mask of Lisette, and immediately next to her, or Cosette Lee, and this is Arlene, my wife. Of course, she's made to look like she's 90 years old there. The thing that Arlene wanted was, I want a part, I want a part, I want a part. So we gave her the part of Mrs. Smith, the school teacher, and she got to do this part. One of the things that I was fascinated in the making of this film and in the process was the parts that Alfred Hitchcock totally chose to ignore or overlook and only used a very minimal part, and that was the amount of dress-up and disguise, the actual Ed Gein's actual putting on bits and pieces of skin and flesh and making musical instruments and useful tools. He was extremely fascinated by the bits and pieces of bones and flesh that he put together, and I thought this part was fairly interesting. We made a point out of trying to make this scene as frightening as possible, and in the process it actually, there's a very fine line between what is funny and what is what is horrible, and I think we were able to cross that line back and forth a few different times in the film. When you were absolutely at the height of your laughter on it, suddenly we would hit you with some horrible image, and that was sort of the thing that we were hoping to do.
Now, okay, here we are. The head you saw a few moments ago was in its rough stage of completion. Here is the finished head. Now, this is tremendous detail work, and we can credit this to some very, very clever and very artistic individuals who are known throughout the movie industry today. One of those is Alan Ormsby, who wrote the script for Deranged. He was also one of the co-directors, and he was the head of the makeup department. His assistant at that time was Tom Savini, who has since gone on to become a legend in the special effects and makeup departments of many, many big pictures. Tom Savini is a legend, and this is one of his earlier works, along with Alan Ormsby. Now, the arms you saw a moment ago looked very well compared to this. This is what the final arm looks like after the aging and all of the other special effects work they did to it. This is one of the arms that was attached to that Girl Scout uniform They had to do away with the Girl Scout uniform. Here's the other arm. And let me show you some of the other faces. This is one we saw being worked on, and now it's completed, and this is how it appeared in the movie. You can see a tremendous amount of work went into this, and a lot of artistic talent. This one has a great deal of hair, where the other ones don't have any. And then here is probably the one that required the most amount of work. This is the one that was the mother of Ed Gein, or as he was known in Deranged, Ezra Cobb. This was his mother, and there's a tremendous effort put into this. This, of course, shows the head after all of the repairs were made by Ezra in the movie. You see he put a patch over her decaying skin here on the forehead. He replaced her nose, and he fixed other things as they needed repairing in the movie. And she had to have a wig, so here's that. And this is how she appeared in the film. One of the other heads was this one, which was used by Ezra in his dining room. He put this on the dining table, and this one, of course, features the ears in great detail. It has hair on there. And this is the one for the fans that like that very special scene where he was doing his, his autopsy work, I guess you could say. He took the brains out of the top, he removed the eyeball, and then he used this for dinner rolls on his dining table. So in the movie, when you see that scene, and we're going to show you that scene in a moment, he has the rolls in the top of the head.
Hi, Miss Johnson. Remember me? I used to be in a Sunday school class. There she comes now, real easy. Now, the next thing to do is get this hair off. See, Mama? All I got to do, stitch it on you. Look, Mama. I brought you a visitor.
And here he's carrying the skull in. I think he takes the cap off and reveals her brain here, doesn't he? No. Here he's just taking the skull. Looks like he's going to set it on the... Oh, yeah, he does. He sets it on the bedpost. How neat. I remember that Roberts Blossom, I think he came up with the bit, or was it you, Tom Carr, of dipping his fried chicken into a jar of peanut butter and eating it. I tried that once. Okay, here we go. And here's the various close-ups of the bodies sitting around the dinner table. Here's a sweet little person here. I don't know who she is with the beads around her neck. And It looks like they're all pretty well dressed. Oh, I remember her. This is the one, Ezra Cobb, I think, dated her, and she's the one that he shoots way before they go in the Bad and Ugly. When Clint Eastwood did it, he shoots her through the pillow. Covers her face with a pillow and then shoots her. Looks like various body parts on the shelf. I guess these are set decorations for Ezra Cobb's house. This body here looks pretty emaciated. It's just a skull. Close-up of the food. Bologna, grapes, beans, crackers. It looks like the stuff we were eating off-set down in the lunchroom. Interesting. A skull with biscuits in its head. A lot of the stuff I don't remember here. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Beans, beans, beans. And little pies. Look like rotting, mold-covered apple pies. Close-up of an eye socket in one of our skulls. We made these pretty quickly, as I remember, in the basement of the Ukrainian film studio. I remember me and Jerry and some other people tried to help us, I think, smearing latex and cotton latex over these Dalrons, and the teeth, I think, were still part of the skulls. Here's a nose sewn over Ma Cobb's face. Okay, there's Jerry Bergson again, sitting at the table. Alan Ormsby. Jerry's doing some finishing touches on... Again, I guys got to fill in these names. I cannot remember the name of the girlfriend that Ezra took to that candle-lit dinner and then shot her. Oh, there's that girl again. And I really don't remember her name. I don't know if you can find out where she is. I'd like to know, because I really liked her back then. I wonder if it was this particular nude scene that I'm watching right now with Jeff Gillum kneeling beside her and Robert's Blossom playing with her knees as the camera wanders to show the other bodies around the table. Okay, here we are. We're setting up this dinner table scene here. There's Sandy on the left. It looks like Michael McGowan. Alan Ormsby pops in and taps Jeff on the shoulder. Here's Jeff, and he's doing something with an eyeball of one of the creatures. Is it a grape? Is he going to eat it? No, he said, yep, he does. He does eat it, ladies and gentlemen, with his Mardi Gras T-shirt on. This guy, Alan Tramby, I think is his name, and he introduced us to Canadian beer and Italian food restaurants up there near Toronto. And the biscuit head again with latex and crepe hair and Robert's Blossom. Looks pretty busy on the set this day. You know, I've only seen one... Oh, that must be me. That is me in the background. Look how fat I was with those glasses and no facial hair. And yes, I'm in better shape today than I ever was in my life, and especially that period of my life. What happened? It must be over, because Doug McClure is on the screen, and some caveman. This must be the TBS all-day dinosaur thing. Taper's rewinding, and I guess that's it.
One of the things that we did, a little side note on it, is we did print T-shirts with his mother's last words, which were, the wages of sin is gonorrhea, syphilis, and death. There was only a limited amount of places we could wear those T-shirts, of course. The entire town was... unaware of what we were doing, and we were just a film company doing a movie up there, but we really couldn't wear those T-shirts very many places.
This is the original script for Deranged. Now, if you can see the name on this script, you'll see it's called Necromania. Well, in the industry, it's common to have a working title for your production, and our working title was called Necromania until a better title could be found. The movie was made under this name. And all of the rushes and all of the contracts and with the actors and everything was in the name of Necromania. But I came up with a very good title that later was officially released on the film as Deranged about the time the movie was finished. So it was changed from Necromania to Deranged before it was released theatrically worldwide back in 19-ba-ba-ba-boom. So this is the original script. And it was beautifully written by Alan Ormsby, a fellow that I had met and teamed up with to make this project. I hired him to take the newspaper articles that I had gotten from the Chicago Daily Tribune, from their library, and they had all the stories about Ed Gein and what he had done and what the police found, and all of the transcripts from all of the investigations, the forensic pathologists, and all of the evidence that was gathered against Ed Gein could be found in these newspaper articles from the Chicago Tribune. So I got together with Alan Ormsby, a very good writer, and he put together a script that was basically what I wanted, but I wanted to make several changes. Now, how does the movie Deranged deviate from the true story of Ed Gein? Well, there's only one area where this happens, and that's the concept that I came up with. I went back to Alan Ormsby and said, let's have Ezra Cobb bring his mother home from the cemetery and keep her in the bed where he can feed her and talk to her, and they can play cards together, or they could gossip with the other girls that he collected around the house, and they could have a whole family, a complete family. But the most important thing is that Ed Gein, or Ezra Cobb, could take care of his mother for the rest of his life, just like he had for the remainder of her life. So they could have that relationship where everything would be just like it used to be. And in the movie, you see Ezra Cobb bringing his mother home from the cemetery. Now, that did not happen in real life. Eddie Gein did not disturb the grave of his mother. But as a producer, I took the liberty of a little editorial privilege there, and I thought it would be interesting to have him bring the corpse home of his mother, and he could continue to feed her and talk with her and do everything just like they had always done before. And in that one scene where he brings her home and places her in the bed, you will see that he puts the Bible in her hand like it had been before. He put the bell in the other hand so he could ring. She could ring him anytime she wanted, and it would just be like always. They could be together forever, and that's what he wanted because he missed his mother so much. So I did take some liberties with that story. It did not happen that way in real life, but all of the other things did happen. He did bring those corpses home. He did have his books on taxidermy and biology and anatomy. He did remove parts. He did collect and save these parts throughout the home. They were found by the police, and all of that did take place. He did kill several living victims and bring them home, besides robbing the graveyard. When the police went through the home, they found boxes of noses. They would find a box of ears. They would find a box of unmentionable parts that he had taken from his female victims. He had everything there. He had parts that we just really can't talk about, but he had quite a house of horrors there, and the townspeople of Plainsfield burned that to the ground in 1957, so there would be no more trace of Ed Gein and the horrible things he did from 1945 to 1957.
Damn it! Well, Mr. Cobb, what do you do?
Ma'am?
Oh, what do you do?
Oh, just take care of Mama and keep the house in order, I guess.
Take care of Mama? You mean your mother?
Yes, ma'am. Today at lunch, she said
Mr.
that...
Cobb, you talk to your mother?
Yes.
Mr. Cobb, are you making fun of me?
No.
You sure?
Yes, ma'am. Cross my heart.
I thought you were making fun of me. A lot of people around here do, you know. They make fun of me because I talk to Herbert.
Herbert?
My late husband. I talk to him all the time. This is his picture, see? He was killed 4 years ago. Burned up in an automobile accident on Route 7. We were very happy. We still are. At least he tells me he is. I spoke to him last night. Say, Ezra, you know what we ought to do? Is it all right if I call you Ezra?
Yes.
Well, Ezra, why don't we all get together some night and hold a 4-way seance? You, me, Herbert, and Amanda. That is, if Amanda's speaking to me nowadays. What do you say?
All get together and talk?
Oh, yes. Oh, it'll be such fun. Herbert's never met Amanda. Please.
No, I don't know. Well, I'll ask her.
Make it Thursday night. Shake on it.
I thought that Robert's Blossoms was perfectly cast. I have to definitely credit Tom Carr with that pick. He came back from New York from a casting after we had viewed a lot of actors in the United States and in Canada, and said that he had found this fellow named Robert's Blossoms there. We saw his tape, and he was right on the money. He involved himself deeply in the role. I mean, he was very much involved, and only the lightest of direction would push him in the right direction. I thought he was very well cast in that.
This is exactly what the police found when they went into the Ed Gein farmhouse in November of 1957. This is exactly what they found, and they found these in every room of the farmhouse. These were at eye level throughout the home. They theorized so that wherever Eddie went throughout his home, he could always talk to one of these in each room. They were in the kitchen, they were on the bedpost, mounted all over the mother's bedroom so that she could talk to them too, as you see in the movie. So this guy was one sick puppy, and the movie is the closest version of the real Ed Gein story of all the movies that have been made about Ed Gein. People wonder whatever happened to Ed Gein, or as he was known to his friends and neighbors there in Plainfield, Wisconsin, Eddie. Well, Eddie was incarcerated in the mental institution in Wisconsin in 1957. They knew after they went through his home and found his house of horrors that he was absolutely insane and that he would never stand trial. So he was put into not solitary confinement, but he was kept in confinement at maximum security for the rest of his life. Now, in 1968, they felt they had enough evidence against him, and they felt, after many psychiatric tests, that he could possibly go to trial on one of the murders that he could be charged with if they felt that he understood the difference between right and wrong. So he did go to trial on one charge of murder before Judge Golmar, who wrote this book that I told you about, and that took place in 1968. It wasn't really a trial per se, it was more or less a hearing. And at that hearing, he was found incompetent to stand trial, but at the same time, they found him guilty of murder and declared insane. So he went back to the mental institution He had his own little room. He was kept away from the other prisoners for the most part, and he spent the rest of his days until 1984 making little figurines and little paintings and this type of thing. And he died and was buried next to his mother in Plainfield, Wisconsin.